There is a realm you are meant to enter, a promised place, not built by human hands, but crafted by divine intention. But here's the truth that most people miss. That place is not discovered, it is remembered. It is not found through striving or external searching. It is unlocked from within. Imagination is not child's play. It is not mere escape. It is the sacred instrument by which the unseen becomes seen. If God is saying, "You're leaving soon," then it means your inner world is shifting, your consciousness is graduating, and the only way forward is through the portal of your imagination, because that's where the map is. You don't need to beg the world for direction. You need to dare to see where your soul is already heading. Before your feet ever walk the path, your mind must walk it first. You must feel it real. See it until it becomes more real than the facts in front of you. You are not waiting for the external to give you permission. You are not hoping for the evidence to show up. You are becoming the evidence. Your new world begins with a new assumption, one that says, "I am already there," because what you imagine consistently, you eventually live. You see, when God says, "I have prepared a place for you," that is not future tense in the language of spirit. That is not someday or maybe. That is a finished work in the unseen realm, waiting for you to claim it with belief. It is not just about a job or a relationship or a home. It's about stepping into a dimension where your true self is already alive, a place where the old burdens have no weight, where the struggle no longer writes your story. That place is accessible through the door of your inner eye, when you close your physical eyes and begin to live from the end, when you see yourself healed, free, fulfilled, smiling, not trying to get there, but being there. You create an inner magnet. You enter the place spiritually, and the outer world has no choice but to bend and shape itself around your vision. This is not fiction. This is spiritual law. Everything in your current world is the harvest of past imaginal acts. And everything that is coming is already seeded by your assumptions today. If you imagine lack, you reinforce the place you're leaving. But if you imagine fullness, if you dare to occupy the new land mentally, you align yourself with the place God has already prepared. You do not have to force the details. Imagination does not need to worry about how. It only needs to feel the truth of the end. When a person imagines vividly, with faith, they are not pretending. They are participating in the creation of the divine promise. So many people keep asking for signs, for confirmations, for doors to swing wide open before they take the first step. But God says, "I've already placed the destination within you. Walk by faith, not by sight." The GPS of your life is spiritual, and the signal comes strongest in stillness, in belief, and in bold imagination. The kingdom of God is within you, not somewhere you go after death, but a dimension you access in life through consciousness. You don't need to fight your way into the next chapter. You need to imagine it until it becomes undeniable. That's the secret. The world changes after you do, not the other way around. And if you're waiting for your senses to give you permission to believe, you will wait forever. But if you believe, truly believe, before the facts agree, the facts will soon have no choice but to fall in line. Let this truth settle into your spirit. Where you consistently dwell in thought, you will eventually dwell in form. If you keep visiting the land of peace, confidence, abundance, and joy in your imagination, it will become your new address. You're not fantasizing. You're rehearsing your reality. You're aligning with divine intention. Every time you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you're moving closer to the prepared place. You're leaving the old patterns, the old self-image, the old trauma, and stepping into the new identity. The imagination is the womb of your world, and what you conceive there will be born in your experience. So stop imagining delays. Stop rehearsing defeat. Stop meditating on what might go wrong. God didn't bring you this far to tease you with visions that never manifest. The place is real, the promise is true, but it can only be entered by those who see it before they see it. It takes courage to live this way. The world will tell you you're being unrealistic. But understand this, the most spiritual thing you can do is trust what you see with your inner eye, even when the outer conditions contradict it. You are not here to conform to the world. You are here to transform it by the renewing of your mind. That transformation begins in your imagination. That's why Jesus said, when you pray, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Not someday, not maybe, it will be yours. Why? Because you accepted it as real before the world could validate it. You dared to believe the promise more than the problem, and that is the essence of spiritual power, to feel the unseen as more real than what is seen until the seen begins to shift. So if you've been feeling the stirring, the inner nudge, the sense that you're on the verge of something greater, that's not anxiety, that's alignment, that's the voice of God saying you're leaving soon. You are not being left behind. You are being called higher, but before you walk in it physically, you must walk in it internally. Live from it now, see it now, speak it now. Let your imagination be your guide, your compass, your map. Because that place, the one prepared just for you, already exists in spirit. It's already finished. It's not waiting on time. It's waiting on your belief. And when you dwell there consistently, passionately, faithfully, life itself will open up like a flower in bloom. The people, the doors, the resources, the healing, all of it will begin to rise to meet you, not because you chased it, but because you became it. The world responds to who you are in consciousness. And when you finally know, without a shadow of a doubt, that the place is already yours, you'll see everything around you rearranged to reflect that truth. This is not wishful thinking, this is spiritual mastery. And the key to it all is imagination. Use it, trust it, live in it, because God has already prepared the place. Now it's your turn to enter it. By faith, through vision, with boldness, when God says you're leaving soon. Most people assume it means a dramatic external change, a new location, a new season, a new environment. But the Spirit speaks in dimensions, not destinations. God is not talking about packing your bags and relocating across cities or countries. He is speaking to your state of consciousness. You are not leaving the world. You are leaving the version of yourself that no longer serves your divine destiny. You are stepping out of fear, lack, struggle, doubt, and stepping into the place of peace, abundance, authority, and faith that has always existed within you. This isn't about changing what's around you. It's about changing what's within you, because the world will only reflect back to you what you continually accept as true about yourself. The departure God speaks of is not physical, it's spiritual. It's the shedding of a skin you've outgrown. It's the breaking of an old identity that can't survive in the promised place. The poverty, the pain, the patterns, they don't fit the next chapter, and so they must fall away. You don't escape them by force. You dissolve them by refusing to identify with them any longer. This is the mystery of elevation. You don't climb with your feet first. You rise with your belief first. And in doing so, the scenery changes. You begin to see new opportunities, new people, new solutions, not because the world changed, but because you did. You left the old state, the version of you that questioned everything, that second, guessed your worth, that made fear the foundation of every decision. And now God is ushering you into a new realm. It doesn't require a passport, but it does require a transformed mind. This is why many people try to change locations, jobs, relationships, but keep finding themselves stuck in the same cycles, because they moved in the outer world, but never transitioned in their inner world. They left the house, but took the old self with them. Until you leave the state, nothing truly changes. But the moment you shift internally, even if nothing around you has moved yet, your future becomes inevitable. The old state is seductive. It tells you to stay small. It tells you nothing will change. It tells you that your past is a preview of your future. But that voice is a lie. You are not what happened to you. You are not what they said about you. You are not the mistakes or the delays. You are consciousness, ever expanding, ever evolving, ever empowered by the breath of God. The moment you choose to step out of the state of I can't and into the state of I already am, you ignite a spiritual exodus. Like the Israelites leaving Egypt, you are leaving bondage, not in body, but in belief. Egypt wasn't just a place, it was a mentality, a mindset of slavery, of limitation, of fear, and even after they left physically, many still carried Egypt in their hearts. That's why God didn't just want to get them out. He wanted to transform them so they'd never return to that bondage again. Your journey is the same. You are not being moved to escape, you are being moved to expand. You're leaving behind a mindset that kept replaying the same story, the story of not being good enough, the story of always being the one overlooked, the story of survival instead of abundance, and now God says that story is over. But for you to walk into the new one, you must leave the old one behind, not through denial, but through awakening. You must awaken to the truth that everything you truly are is already in you, that what you seek is seeking you, that you are already worthy, already chosen, already equipped. You are not trying to get to the promised place. You are realizing that you were always meant to live from it. So stop trying to fix the external world first. It's just a mirror. Fix the image within. Shift from seeing yourself as the victim to seeing yourself as the vessel. A vessel of light, of purpose, of power. You are not here to repeat the patterns of your ancestors. You are here to break them, to walk in a new identity, and that means leaving behind the emotional addictions that kept you bound, the need for validation, the comfort of complaining, the loyalty to limitation. All of it must go, because the place prepared for you doesn't allow that baggage. You can't take unforgiveness into peace. You can't take scarcity into abundance. You can't take fear into purpose. You must be willing to let go of what is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. And here's the sacred truth. When you leave the old state, the world around you may not celebrate, it may resist, people may not understand, the familiar may fight to pull you back, but don't let that fool you. That's just the echo of your past trying to survive. You don't need to argue, you don't need to explain. Your silence will speak louder than any defense, because elevation always exposes what was never meant to go with you. And sometimes God will allow that resistance to show you what needs to be cut off. Not in bitterness, but in obedience, because where you're going, peace is normal, joy is expected, purpose is daily, and anything that contradicts that must be released. So if you've been feeling the discomfort, the friction, the pull to something greater, that's confirmation. You are already in the transition. You're not crazy, you're being called. The restlessness is not a curse. It's a sign that your spirit is waking up. You're leaving soon, not because where you are is evil, but because it's no longer enough. The old level has expired. The old version of you has done its part. Now it's time to rise, and you rise by believing before the evidence arrives. You rise by refusing to react to appearances, and instead choosing to respond from the state of victory. Understand this deeply. The state you live in creates the life you live out. And the moment you choose a new state, a state of faith, of wholeness, of inner certainty, the universe conspires to support that choice. You'll see coincidences, opportunities, divine alignments. Doors will open that were never supposed to open for the old you. But the new you, the one God already sees, that version walks in miracles as a natural rhythm. You won't have to chase, you'll attract. You won't have to fight, you'll flow. You won't have to plead, you'll receive. Not because the world changed, but because your state did. So today, make the shift. Mentally pack your bags. Emotionally sign the lease to your new state. Spiritually lock in. Say goodbye to who you used to be, not with regret, but with reverence. Because every version of you served its season. But now the chapter has turned, and the new story begins with this truth. You are not leaving the world. You are leaving the state that kept you from seeing it clearly. And once you shift the state, everything you once prayed for starts showing up, not as a surprise, but as a reflection. The promise is real, the place is ready, and the invitation has been sent. Now walk in it, not with fear, but with faith. When God says, I have prepared a place just for you, He is not talking about a generic blessing or a copy-paste miracle. He is speaking of a divinely crafted reality, a life sculpted with the brushstrokes of your own inner assumptions. Nothing in your world is random. The place prepared is not just waiting somewhere out there. It's waiting in the unseen dimension of your belief system. Because the outer world, with all its shifts, blessings, and breakthroughs, is only ever reflecting the assumptions you've dared to hold on the inside. Your life is the mirror of your consistent mental conversations, your emotional atmosphere, and the identity you wear in silence. That means if you keep assuming rejection, lack, delay, or unworthiness, then even the most beautiful blessings won't be able to stick. They'll bounce off the walls of an internal belief that says, this isn't for me. But when you shift your inner assumption, when you decide that favor is natural, that you are chosen, that abundance is your birthright, everything around you begins to rearrange to accommodate that truth. You don't force the blessing, you become the version of you who already lives in it. That's how the prepared place becomes visible. You see, assumptions are not casual thoughts. They are declarations written in the language of feeling. You don't attract what you wish for. You attract what you assume is already yours. There is a place, a relationship, a role, a piece that's so in tune with your God-given design, but the only way you will ever step into it is by assuming it into being. Not with struggle, not with begging, but with quiet confidence, with the unwavering belief that this is already mine in spirit. You don't become what you want, you become what you believe yourself to be. This is the law of consciousness. And God, in His infinite wisdom, has prepared something unique for you. But He cannot override your assumption. That's the gift and the challenge. You are made in His image, which means you hold the creative power to shape the world you live in. And He will not force you into the promised place. You must accept it inwardly. You must embody it before you experience it. That's why some people remain outside the gates of their breakthrough for years. Not because the place isn't ready, but because they never prepared their belief to match it. Think about it. When someone assumes defeat, everything in life becomes hard. Conversations feel cold, opportunities hide. But when someone assumes victory, the same world becomes filled with open doors and divine alignments. It's not the world that changed, it's the filter through which they perceived it, and that filter is shaped by assumption. God doesn't reward desperation, He honors belief. When you wake up each day and walk like the promise is already yours, speak like the door is already open, act like the victory is already won, that's not arrogance, that's spiritual agreement, that's the faith God responds to. The prepared place has your name written on it, but it's written in the ink of identity. You cannot show up in the wrong state and expect to unlock the right door. This is why so many doors seem closed. They were never rejecting you. They were simply waiting for the right version of you to arrive. The one who knows, the one who assumes it's already done, and assumption isn't about pretending. It's not wishful thinking or forced optimism. It's the quiet, grounded, unshakable knowing that what God promised is already fulfilled in the realm of spirit. Your job is not to force it to happen, it's to align your self-concept with it. You want to walk into that prepared place, then ask yourself, what version of me belongs there? How does that version think, speak, move, and expect? And start living as that version now, not someday, now, because the place isn't preparing itself anymore. It's already done. You're the one being shaped into readiness, and that shaping happens not through external struggle, but internal agreement. When your assumption finally matches what God has already built, manifestation is not delayed, it's released. This is why imagination is so vital, because imagination gives birth to assumption. If you keep imagining worst-case scenarios, if you rehearse failure, if you allow fear to build a home in your thoughts, your assumption becomes rooted in limitation, and the world must echo that back to you. But if you meditate on the end, if you dare to see yourself living in the fulfillment, walking through the door, resting in the peace, thriving in the promise, your assumption shifts, and when that happens, you don't have to chase the blessing. It comes and finds you, because the place isn't just prepared externally, it's spiritually magnetized to the version of you who lives in that frequency. Do you understand the power of this truth? You can't wait until things change to feel different. You must feel different, and then things will change. That's how God set this whole process up, not to tease you, but to empower you, so that you're not waiting on the world to give you permission, you're creating the permission internally. You are not helpless, you are not left behind, you are the gatekeeper of your own shift, and your assumption is the key. If you assume healing, healing begins to unfold. If you assume provision, doors begin to open. If you assume divine timing, delays lose their power. But if you keep assuming you're not ready, not enough, not chosen, you'll walk right past the promised place, blinded by the belief that it's for someone else. So today, let the old assumption die, the one that kept you playing small, the one that made you doubt your gift, the one that convinced you that time had run out. That version of you was never the real you. It was just the echo of fear wearing your name, but now the divine whisper is louder than ever. The place is ready. Are you? Not physically, spiritually, because this next chapter isn't about hustle. It's about harmony. The door doesn't respond to your effort. It responds to your alignment. Assume it's yours, not based on evidence, but based on divine truth. And when your assumption aligns, manifestation is no longer a matter of if, but when. And when it shows up, when the door swings open, when the vision becomes visible, when the breakthrough manifests, you won't be surprised, you'll smile, because you'll know it didn't happen by chance. It happened by choice. The choice to believe before seeing, to feel before having, to align before arriving. That's the mystery, that's the power, that's the path, and God in His wisdom already saw it all coming. The place was prepared from the beginning. But only those who assume the position will walk in and claim it. So step into that version of you today, wear the identity, think the thoughts, hold the frequency, and let the place prepared find the you it's been waiting for. When God whispers that you're leaving soon, it isn't a warning, it's a revelation. It's not a farewell, it's a welcome into something greater. This is not a loss you're walking into, it's a divine graduation. You see, departure in the spiritual realm doesn't always mean physical relocation. Sometimes it's leaving behind a mindset that no longer serves you, exiting a season that has fulfilled its purpose, or stepping out of an old identity that has been outgrown. The departure God speaks of is sacred, intentional, and aligned with destiny. You are not being evicted, you are being elevated, and just like a student doesn't mourn leaving school after graduation, you must not mourn what you're walking away from. Because this exit has been ordained, the door that's closing behind you is not punishment, it's protection. The room you're leaving has given you everything it could, and now heaven is saying, come higher. You are ready even if you don't feel like it. People around you may not understand it. They may think you're abandoning something good, but they don't see what God has placed in your spirit. They don't feel the inner stirring, the holy discomfort, the sacred discontent that has been rising like a quiet tide in your soul. That unease you've been feeling, that's the signal, that restlessness, that's the graduation bell ringing in the spirit. You've completed the assignment in this season, and staying would only dull your light. What once nourished you has now become too small for the version of you God is calling forth. Don't grieve the exitry, rejoice in the elevation. The reason you're leaving is not because something went wrong. It's because something has finally gone right in your inner world. You've matured, you've outgrown limitation, you've awakened to your true identity, and now the spiritual realm is aligning your outer life with your inner awareness. You don't graduate because you've mastered perfection. You graduate because you've learned enough to step into the next level. That's where you are. You are spiritually prepared for something your mind can't fully comprehend yet. This is why certain things feel off, even if they look good on paper. It's why you can't settle anymore. It's why you feel the pull to move, shift, release. The old environment, the old relationships, the old way of thinking. It's like wearing a robe that no longer fits. And God, your divine instructor, is not asking you to fix what's familiar. He's asking you to follow what's true. This transition is not random. It is your soul's appointed time to walk into deeper expression, fuller freedom, higher consciousness. You're not running from something. You're being drawn to something, a life that mirrors the revelation that's now alive within you. And make no mistake, spiritual graduation is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like quiet exits. Like moving in silence, like letting go without announcing it. Sometimes the most sacred departures happen without applause, but heaven sees it all. Heaven celebrates every time you choose alignment over approval. Every time you choose purpose over comfort, every time you walk by faith, not by familiarity. You're not leaving because you're weak. You're leaving because you're finally strong enough to obey the call. You're finally choosing truth over trauma, growth over guilt, destiny over delay. And even though it may feel uncertain, there is divine structure holding you. The same God who stirred the waters is the one who will carry you across them. The same spirit that made you restless will now lead you into rest. Don't look back in regret. Look forward in reverence. The Egypt you're walking away from may have had meals and memories, but it also had chains. You're not going back. You can't. The version of you who once fit there no longer exists. The departure is irreversible for a reason. You're being sealed into the new, and yes, there may be moments where you feel lost in the transition, where you don't know exactly what comes next. But that's when you remember you're not wandering. You're being led, and God never leads you out of something unless He's prepared something greater ahead. This is why the internal work matters so much, because every spiritual departure begins within. Before the move happens in your outer world, it happens first in your spirit. The decision is made in silence. The agreement happens in your soul, and once you say yes internally, all of heaven begins to shift things externally. This is why doors start closing, why relationships naturally fade, why opportunities that once felt right suddenly lose their grip. It's not the enemy, it's God reconfiguring your environment to match your elevation. He's not punishing you, He's positioning you. You are being escorted by grace into a life that resonates with your divine frequency. And the people who can't come with you, bless them, honor the role they played, but don't slow down trying to explain your departure to those who were never meant to understand it. You don't need their validation. You have heaven's approval, you have God's yes, and that is more than enough. Not everyone will see the promise in your path. Not everyone will feel the wind that's pushing you forward, but that's okay. Because the journey you're on was designed for your soul's evolution, not their comfort. Trust the pull, trust the inner voice, trust the knowing that you were not created to stay where it's safe. You were created to ascend. Let go of the need to figure everything out. Graduation doesn't require you to have all the answers. It requires trust. You may not know exactly what's next, but you know it's time, and that knowing is sacred. That knowing is holy. You don't need to justify it, just walk in it. You don't need a map, just a yes, because the place prepared is already calling you, and it's not just about location, it's about transformation. You're not just moving places, you're shifting dimensions, you're crossing thresholds of identity. You're stepping into a reality where your inner truth finally matches your outer experience. So take a deep breath and don't resist what God is doing. You're not being abandoned, you're being advanced, you're not being stripped, you're being strengthened. Every time you say yes to growth, yes to change, yes to purpose, you are proving to the universe that you are ready. Ready for the next level, ready for more, ready to embody the version of you that was once only imagined. This is not the end, this is the unfolding. You're not leaving behind what mattered, you're walking toward what really matters. And when you arrive at the place prepared, when you feel the peace that doesn't shake, when you see the provision that doesn't run dry, when you finally rest in the promise that once felt like a dream, you will understand why it had to happen this way. You'll realize that the loss wasn't loss at all. It was the shedding of weight you were never meant to carry. The ending was actually an unveiling, and the departure was really a divine delivery, into truth, into freedom, into destiny. So leave, not with fear, but with faith. Walk away, not with sorrow, but with sacred joy, because you, beloved, are not walking into uncertainty. You are walking into your spiritual graduation. And heaven is standing, clapping, smiling, because you finally saw the signs, answered the call, and said, "Yes, Lord, I'm ready." Every tear you cried in silence, every night you questioned why, every heartbreak, every closed door, every lonely morning, every delayed answer, it all mattered. And more than that, it all built you. Nothing in your current life has been wasted, not the pain, not the waiting, not even the parts you regret. It was all part of the divine blueprint. You may not see it now, but your spirit knows the truth. Everything you've been through was preparing you for what's coming next. The people who betrayed you, the opportunities you lost, the chances you thought would change your life that didn't, none of them were detours. They were divine design, because the place you are stepping into, the chapter God is opening before you, required a version of you that could only be forged in the fire. And you, beloved, walked through that fire and didn't even know heaven was watching, recording, and building something eternal out of what felt like brokenness. You see, we live most of our lives believing we are waiting on God, when in truth God has been waiting on us, to see ourselves the way He always has, to rise in understanding, to accept the sacredness of the path we've already walked. The new chapter that's unfolding is not disconnected from your past, it's born because of it. You aren't starting from scratch. You're starting from wisdom. You're stepping onto ground you paid for in tears, in trust, in trial. So don't curse your past. Don't resent the pain. That pain was a tool. That failure was a teacher. That delay was a divine pause, not a denial. You didn't lose time. You gained depth. You gained discernment. You gained a knowing that no book, no sermon, no lecture could have given you, and now heaven says use it. And nothing is wasted, not even the mistakes, the places you stumbled, the choices you regret. They humbled you. They peeled off pride. They awakened compassion. They taught you how to recognize what's real and who is pretending. Without that pain, you would have trusted the wrong voices in your next season. Without that loneliness, you wouldn't have learned how to hear God clearly. Without being stripped, you wouldn't have discovered your true worth. Everything worked together to align you with your spiritual identity. Even the things that felt like losses were really just redirections. God was never punishing you, He was pruning you, and now that the season of preparation is complete, now that your roots have gone deep enough, the fruit can finally begin to show. You may feel like the years were wasted, like you stayed too long in the wrong place, gave too much to the wrong people, or delayed your purpose. But time in God's hands is never linear. What looked like 10 years of stillness may birth something in 1 month that changes everything. He multiplies, He redeems, He restores, but before He gives you the visible increase, He made sure your invisible strength was built. That's why it took so long. Not because you were forgotten, but because what's coming is so great, your character had to catch up to your calling. You had to unlearn some things, let go of some people, forgive some wounds, shed some illusions, and you did. You're still here. You kept moving forward, and heaven took note. This new chapter God is writing doesn't ignore your pain, it redeems it. It doesn't erase your past, it reveals its purpose. The lessons, the losses, the long nights, it all formed the foundation of this next level. You didn't just survive, you became, and now you get to walk in rooms you once dreamed of, not because you're lucky, but because you're ready. This is not a coincidence, this is culmination. Every moment you stayed faithful when no one was watching, every time you held on when your heart said quit it counted, it added weight to your anointing. It added authority to your voice. You're not just entering this next chapter. You're qualified for it. And don't think for a second that the people who misunderstood you, the ones who walked away or wrote you off, had any power over your future. They were part of the pruning, not the planting. Their exit made space. Their silence taught you how to hear heaven more clearly. What they meant for harm, God absorbed and turned into holy preparation. You didn't need their applause to rise. You didn't need their belief to evolve. You only needed one thing, to say yes when it hurt, and you did. That yes unlocked something eternal. That yes aligned you with a reality beyond what your eyes could see. Now you are stepping into a space where all that once confused you will start making sense. Conversations from 5 years ago, rejections from last season, doors that closed and broke your heart, they all become beautiful in hindsight. You'll see how God weaved it together like a master artist, taking every brushstroke, every dark shade, every jagged line, and turning it into a portrait of purpose. You'll understand why the storm came before the calm, why the loss preceded the blessing, why the silence held more power than noise. Nothing was wasted, even the moments you thought you were standing still. God was building in the background, and here's the sacred part: you won't even be bitter. Because the wisdom that came through the process will be so rich, so liberating, that you'll bless the very things that tried to break you. You'll thank God for what didn't work out. You'll praise Him for what didn't stay. You'll look at the wilderness and see it was the womb. And as this new chapter unfolds, it won't be filled with striving, it'll be filled with knowing. Knowing who you are, knowing whose you are, knowing why it all happened. And in that knowing, you'll walk with confidence, with grace, with a peace that silences every doubt. You are not empty, you are equipped, you're not behind, you've been prepared. The next chapter isn't about starting over, it's about stepping forward with all the power you didn't even realize you had. And everything from your current life, every victory, every lesson, every valley comes with you. Not as baggage, but as building blocks. You're constructing a future rooted in truth. And because you've been faithful in little, you're now ready for much. So hold your head high. The weight you carried was not in vain. The path you walked was not random, the pain you endured was not wasted, it was witnessed, it was used, and it now becomes the platform you stand on. God says, this is the place prepared just for you, and everything you've lived through was the key to open the door. Walk through it boldly. Nothing is wasted, every step counted, and now the story continues, greater than ever before.